Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs and myself, Erwin de Grave. And today, we're talking to Lisa Kalmin. Hello, Lisa. How are you doing?
Good. Hi, guys.
Hi, Steve, as well. Welcome. So, Lisa, we all could try to introduce yourself, but you're the person who knows yourself much better than we do. So, who is Lisa? How did she got in coaching and what she's doing nowadays?
Thank you for asking. I am what is known as a transformational trainer and coach. And I actually got into this in the late 80s. So yeah, my journey began in 1987. I was coaching and training by 1989. So I've been around a lot. Transformation at that point, no one knew what that meant. Now we hear it quite a bit. And in fact, when I first started working, we would say someone's vision, and people would literally think, are you talking about their eyesight? I'm like, no, we're not talking about their eyesight. We're talking about their long-term desire for their life. So I've been around. I have worked for coaching companies. I owned my own transformational seminar and coaching company for a while. Now I work on contract. And I think one of my biggest claims to fame is that at the age of 51, I became a mom. I did not birth my children. They did not physically come through my body. They came through my partner's body. And so I have twin boys that are 15 years old. So I kind of did it backwards. I was single for a whole lot of time, and all the people that I went to school with had kids. Now they have grandkids and I've got kids. So, and recently I've been working with people about their mindset around money and relationship with money, and money is energy. And I would say the other one thing I am proud of, I wrote a book called The Problem is How You See the Problem. So, which is kind of my thing. It's like, it's all in how you see it.
Cool.
So thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. So a question, what did you do before you get into coaching?
Yeah, I have an MBA, a master's in business from the University of Texas. I'm a Texas girl. I was telling you all, I'm a Texas girl, but I live in California now. And I was in the financial services industry. I worked as a financial investment advisor for a large financial services company. So that's my background. And then I had the benefit of doing my own transformational work and was bitten by the bug, and felt like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I feel really fortunate that I found what seems like my purpose and my calling and my dharma, as they would say, by the time I was in my early 30s. So feel super fortunate to have found my place.
You've been in coaching like nearly 40 years.
Yeah.
So you would have seen that transformation. Can you just share something that like 40 years ago and now is that whole transformation around it in the industry?
Yeah. In my experience was coaching before was very more focused corporately, like in business. There weren't when I first started, there weren't a lot of quote life coaches. Now, I honest to goodness, if somebody says they're a life coach and my ears go, it's like I get a little neat because it feels like, it's on every street corner. Anyway, it was mostly business oriented. So the work I was doing, which mostly happened in workshops with people, because I love the group dynamic, and I'm sure both of you have worked with groups, and there's something that happens with each other that one-on-one I can't always replicate. It was all the individual work was done more in a public domain and coaching there. And then as it transitioned, it was like the Wild West. everybody could call themselves a coach. They could do whatever they wanted, etc. So organizations like ICF coming into sort of prominence and finding a way to certify coaches, I think has been a great benefit. And then with the advent of the internet, I feel like it was like, hey, can you smile on camera, call yourself a coach, and there you go. And there are some really phenomenal coaches out there, and there are not. And I still don't know how people discern that distinction very well. I think it's tough without their own experience or a common friend or colleague or trusted advisor that knows that person's work. Yeah. So that's
So
yeah.
you used the term transformational before. In your words, how do you define transformational in the context of your work?
I define transformational, and if you take the word transform, it literally, if you look at the etymology, it's going beyond the form. So we talk about getting out of your box. That's been a common term for decades now. Oh, you have your comfort zone, get out of your box. And literally, by the time we are 8 years old, there's studies that say 12, there's studies that say 4 or 5. Our particular worldview is fairly set unless we examine it and transform it, as you know. So transformation for me is when someone can take a step back, look at their own worldview, see what works and doesn't work, and then have a shift in that. And literally, it's a shift in how we relate to ourselves, our world, our circumstances, our obstacles, and the way we look at life. So that's a transformation. Now, can I veer off to what I call a breakthrough? Because I talk about breakthrough. Breakthrough is not only seeing something from a new perspective, it's actually shifting your relationship with it so that you show up differently in it. Now, it may include an emotion, it may not include an emotion, but it does require a shift in your what I call way of being or quality of how you express yourself and distinct actions. So I always say awareness is the booby prize of transformation, because awareness without any breakthrough in action doesn't cause much new result. It causes result, but not a new one.
That's what you're talking about, the energy, what you mentioned before as well. You have that. So if you talk about a breakthrough and transforming, it's also shifting that energy that makes things happen.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. If we get into the quantum physics of this, we're vibrating at a particular, vibration. And the higher you vibrate, the more you're going to attract.
I love it. We were talking before about mindset around money as energy. Tell us what you mean by that. That sounded really curious.
Yeah, I was mentioning to you, I kind of got into this because, like many people, and maybe some of your listeners, my experience and relationship with money has been inconsistent over my professional life. Sometimes it would flow really easily, and sometimes I'd be really feeling tight, scarce, and like I didn't have enough. And so as I began to really dive into this, if we think about money 500 or 600 years ago, we might have said money as an exchange of value was furs or pelts or spices, and then it was coin. We used coin, gold, silver, copper, bronze, whatever that was. And then we had this stuff called cash, which I still love, by the way. I just want to say I still love that. And then it was checks. And I still use a couple every once in a while. And then these classic things called credit cards and debit cards. And now what most people do is they use their phone. They click their phone. At my grocery store, Whole Foods, which is a kind of a upscale. It's not upscale. It's just good for you kind of stuff, kind of. Anyway, They have a device where you can literally put your hand over the device if you've registered, and it will pay for your groceries. Like you just put your palm down, it reads your palm, and boom, you're done.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. So, and we know cryptocurrency is very hot and in whatever form that is. So money isn't even anything we can touch and feel anymore. And if we break everything down to its tiniest, smallest little particle or molecule, it's just atoms bouncing around. So everything is energy. So if money is energy, then it can be attracted and it can flow. And so, so I think of money as an exchange of energy. And one definition I read was money is an exchange we use to value our creative energy, which I think is, yeah.
Yeah. I want to come back to that because you shared a perspective that I've spoken about but haven't seen in the same way that you articulated, which is the evolution of our physical relationship with this value exchange. From furs and trinkets and bartering concepts to palm prints and phones.
Phone, yeah.
With this evolution, how is that changing our relationship with money in modern times?
Well, I think it changes it in that if we take your grandparents, maybe my parents, or even my great grandparents, your grandparents, great grandparents, and my grandparents, they had to they had to physically do something. So whether I think it's going to change a lot with AI too. I think this is all combined. They had to physically go work somewhere. Most of our ancestors worked physically. My dad's family was retail. They went to a store. They worked in the store. My mom's is more culture or agricultural. So there was physical work, and then money would come in or whatever, or they'd have to go to the bank to get their money or whatever. Now, even me growing up, I remember my dad driving me to the neighborhood bank when I was maybe 16, 17 to get my first credit card, or right before I went to college, something like that, to get me my very first credit card. So there was physical activity, and besides cash and cards, etc. And now I think we're moving towards not only with money being this sort of non-tangible energy, I think we're moving so much of our way of living in the world is becoming that. I mean, how many jobs have we heard are going to be non-existent in 5 years because of AI? Which at my age kind of gets me a little shaky, honestly. I'm like, I like doing the work and getting the money. I kind of like that.
So basically, when I see in the past, as you very clearly explained, it's a transfer. It's an exchange of I do something, I get the money. But really, where we getting with being for the last maybe 20 years and going much quicker is also that there is not that connection anymore. So people get lost to find it. And what you say, and I fully agree with that money is energy as well. So if you learn to vibrate, you do not have that physical, you don't need that physical exchange to be able to attract it. Is that correct? Yeah.
That is absolutely correct. So what I'll often work with people around is, look, how are you blocking of the flow? And by the way, in terms of money, there's actually more money on the planet right now than there was when we started this podcast. There's now more money. So there's enough money. So we've got something in the way blocking it, or we're not being or acting in a way that's attracting it. So one of the key blocks for many people that is unknown to them and hidden is the unconscious beliefs they have around money that were modeled or downloaded, literally downloaded from the culture, just being alive as a human being, or that they saw either verbally or, more importantly, modeled in their family of origin. Could be parents, could be grandparents, could be aunties, uncles, ethnic area they grew up in, whatever. Just so much is there.
And how can they break those blockages?
Well, first way to break it is to see it. If you don't know it's there, there's nothing you can do about it. It's like you think you're driving the car of your financial world down the road, but you're actually in the passenger seat while your beliefs are driving the car of your financial life down the road. And so once you see it, I'll give you a great personal example. I can just do that. So as I was doing this, my dad worked in retail. He was not the owner of the store. He was a manager. And it was a big department store, kind of like what would be Target in the United States. I don't know. You guys know what Target is. So he worked really hard. Like he'd come home at 9 at night and work weekends. Well, as I started after I got my MBA and then went into my career, I was in a position where I had a salary, but I could also make money with commission. And I kept making the same amount of money for like 3 or 4 years, even though I had really not much of a ceiling. I really could make more money. And I started looking like, why am I making the same amount? And when I dug into my beliefs, I was making, and I was 28 years old at the time, I was making as much money at 28 as my dad ever made at his top earning at that point. And unconsciously, I didn't want to show up my dad. Like that was something was not present to, because it makes no sense. And believe me, my dad was all for me making lots of money. Less money for him to put out, more money for me to handle, So once I saw it, just the releasing of the unconsciousness around it, I stayed in that career and made 33% more, added a territory. I wasn't doing anything different. So one way to break it up is to notice it. And another is to actively, and journaling is great to do that, et cetera, but to actively affirm something else. One other place that I see people get stuck is what I call their wealth or money set point. And you've probably many times heard this analogy of a thermometer and a thermostat. So a thermometer, if we think about it, goes up and down based on the conditions around it. Okay. So if it's hot, it's up. If it's cold, it's down. A thermostat actually sets the conditions around it. And we tend to, again, on a not conscious level, have a money thermostat somewhere. So for some people, it's in income or revenue, like different amount of money comes, or no matter what they do, the same amount of money comes in. Some people have it in what's left over. It could be, if it's a business, it's net income. If it's a person, it's what they have left over at the month. But a different amount of money comes in at the beginning of the month, and they always end up with the same amount left over at the end. For some people, it's a savings thermostat, meaning they really want to get their savings up. They get it up to a certain amount, and then bang, something breaks or something happens where they have to spend it. The water heater or the transmission, something big that's not negotiable. Or some people, it's debt. Their debt gets high, they work really hard, they get it down, and 6 months to a year later, boom, it's right back up. It's why lottery winners it end up, if without a shift in their paradigm, with the same amount of money they had before they lose a lot of it. Let me just say it that way. So, yeah. So that's another place it gets stuck. So one of the things I do is I ask people to do something really simple, which is to affirm, and I like to keep it simple so I can remember it. And one of the things, especially around a set point, I invite people to just declare, like, I am so happy and grateful for. I am so happy and grateful for. Whatever it is. The 3 high-paying clients I sign up every month, the $20,000 a month I have coming in income, I'm happy and grateful for the $50,000 I have sitting in my savings account, whatever that is. Because as we speak it and bring the energy to it, the vibration, that's the Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, kind of bring the resonance. Um, what I call the universe aligns.
I think it's something really important right now is that you need to say it. It's not like saying it in your mind. You need to say it with a loud voice. You just like we speak now, you need to say it, not
Yeah.
think it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What changes when someone speaks it out loud?
Well, we're always creating or manifesting on the thought level, the speaking level, the being level, like what qualities are we bringing, and the action level. And I think our culture, I used to say it was like Western hemisphere or Western. It's now, I've been to Asia, I've been to China, I've trained in all those places. It's everywhere. We are addicted, I'm going to even say, addicted to actions. Doing, doing, doing. So even though we're human beings, not human doings, we think, well, I did that, I did that, I did that, I did that. And that's why in the coaching industry, I think you guys also talked to Melanie about this a little bit. Melanie Benson, just give her a shout out. Thank you, Melanie. Is so many coaches come with their strategy or their methods. And one of you said right on, we're always selling the features. They're selling the features, not the benefits. And so we think it's the doing of it that's going to generate the same results. Sometimes I used to say, how many of you have read a how-to book and didn't have the results of the how-to author? Yeah, that's because you don't have the mindset or the paradigm or the context of the how-to author. You did all the things the how-to author did, but you didn't have the come from.
So to make clear for everybody that's listening, it is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's really about focusing on being on that feeling, because of that, of course, the action is necessary to be able to get it. But and as you said, people focus on action, getting, but they forget that you need to be in the right state to be able to do the action that's going to give you the result
Absolutely.
that you want.
Yeah, the resonance of that. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. For sure. For sure.
This is a concept I see a lot in coaching, and it's one of those places where, as a coach, we often feel like we're not doing much in terms of the work. Partly because the doing is the action that you just spoke to, and there's a being that we create in relationship with our clients. But when a client gets to hear themselves speak what they think, they get to learn more about what they think. And I think there's that cycle, that reinforcement. There's also something, as I pictured myself in what you're saying, it's like I can think a whole lot of stuff, but as soon as I've got to speak it, a whole different level of emotion starts to show up. I look around, just listening, what's going on, other judgments come in, am I going to look stupid? And I think just giving permission to step beyond those and to practice the speaking of these things itself feels like it's pushing through that box that you were speaking to before.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And let me back up just for 1 second. I think in order for someone to dive into this or buy into this or however we want to say that, I think there's got to be a premise of we live in a benevolent universe. We live in a God given, however you have that, whatever your way of living into a higher power. We live and breathe and be in a benevolent, prosperous universe. And so rather than fight that in my not like I'm trying to fight it, but in my own doubts and programming, rather than fight it, allow it, get into the flow of what wants to happen. And just really quickly, in terms of affirmations, and I know when I first started transformation, or I thought affirmations were a bunch of hooey, because saying an affirmation is speaking something as if it has occurred that hasn't yet. So if you are doing affirmations, you always want to do an affirmation of what you want, not what you don't want. You don't want to go, oh, I'm so glad my aching back stopped hurting, something like that. Okay. So it's like, I'm so happy and grateful for the $50,000 in my savings account. Well, a lot of people have that moment when they think about affirmations. Well, when I say it, there's this little doubt in my head, this sort of cognitive dissonance, like, it's not really true. So I heard a incredible hack around this, and it's from somebody I heard speaking on the Mind Valley platform. Let me give credit to source there, Mind Valley platform. And she said, if you have trouble with affirmations, put it in a lofty question. And so put it in a question like, why do I have so many high paying clients coming into my business every month? Or why do I have 3 to 5 high paying clients coming into my business every month? Or why do I have, $10,000 plus dollars flowing into my account every week? Why do I have such a beautiful home on the lake where my family can come and connect? Like, start putting it in a question, because very much like an affirmation, when we speak it, also when we ask it, our unconscious and the collective has to begin to answer it or organize around it. So it's using that power rather than getting in the way of it.
So why are people fighting against it?
Gosh, that is a great question. And, I have not spent enough time with younger people other than my teenagers who are teenaging to know if that's changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe, at least my generation, maybe the one a little younger than me, has seen for their entire growing up this modeling of work hard. I mean, that's one of the beliefs that are downloaded. If you want money, you got to work hard. Work hard, do this, do that. And I think the second piece of that, as you're asking, is such a great question. I think the second piece of that is, we had up until probably the 60s a pretty spiritually based culture. People believed in God, they believed in the goodness of all that. Lots going on that doesn't work about that, as we know. Lots going on. And in what I think is a reaction to the way spirituality was taught through religion, people have stepped away from that culturally. And I think, at least in the US, there's a whole coming back to this, but it's from in my experience, a very limited and self-righteous place. So I think there is a spiritual awakening that we're in the middle of anyway. That's kind of like, if we want to get really big picture, I think we're right in the middle of it. And so my prayer for my kids, because I don't know that I'll be around for it all, is that occurs. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Tips for parents. So you're talking about teenagers, and I'm on and off mute because they're out there with the dog, and there's all of this stuff happening, in my context here. And it's well, yeah. Other than affirmations, what can we as parents or guardians of the next stewards of the next generation be doing differently to plant different seeds, inspire different thoughts, or help them not get stuck in the same places that we've been stuck in?
Yeah. One of the, yeah, it's hard. Here's what I would say. I thought I had done a lot of personal development work and transformation till I had kids. And then every button and trigger I ever thought I had handled was not handled. Let me just say. I was like, yeah. Okay. I think finding ways for our children to be resilient, responsible, uh, creative thinkers. Like our kids go to a Waldorf school, which we very purposely chose because it's a embodiment, not of the just it's mind, heart, hands, but it's also they get to be resilient. They get to figure things out. It's not learn this, regurgitate it on a test. Learn this, regurgitate on a test. And I'll tell you, I had no idea if it was working until we went to Italy a couple of years ago, and they had studied Rome, the Renaissance, and the explorers. And everywhere we went, because it was a touristy trip, all the hot spots. They recognized art, they recognized building, they knew more about it than I did. I was like, oh, it's working. Okay. So I think any way to teach them resilience, responsibility, including making things, whether it's they make their treehouse or they, fix the car or all, yeah.
I
I love
think
I
it.
think
also,
that's the best thing we can do is because with AI, it won't even matter what they learn. They've got to learn how to learn.
Mm.
I would even say they need to learn how to manage the information they get.
Yeah,
And how they need, and based on information, which decision do I need to make? So
yeah,
it's not about anymore. It's like all the information is, but what information should I filter and how should I be using it from my end so that I can make the right decision and move forward? That's
yeah.
how I see it.
I think that's right on. I think it's right on.
I heard something slightly different, but it ties back to what you said before about role models. So what I take away from me as a parent to your answer to the question is that I need to look at how I am being resilient and responsible and creatively thinking. And if this topic around money and mindset is one that's important for me, then to continue to look, even when it's uncomfortable, to be, as you said, journaling, finding those places I'm getting stuck, noticing those patterns. Like our great listeners, listening to amazing people share their experience, continuing to learn, continuing to have an open mind, and of course, not just stopping at that awareness phase, as you spoke to, but actually reaching out for the types of support that allow us to progress through the challenge and to learn what it is that we're seeking and to not give up before we get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just take a quick. This wasn't even hard for people. Just take a quick look at what's your relationship with money. Like, what do you say in your head about money? It's hard. Is it, and if you said that out loud to your spouse or partner, would they stick around? You know, that's why I did this little money mindset quiz. I'm glad to give you guys. And people can look at what's my, it's a mindset quiz on money. Like, what are my beliefs? If you do it honestly, you're going to see something about where you got limiting energy.
Actually, as that quiz, it's also a great way to start a conversation. I think sometimes topics like money can be hard because it's hard to kind of grasp, but to go, hey, I got this score. Well, what did you get? What is yours?
Yeah.
Let's explore that. What does that mean for you? I think that can start to create some community and openness as
Yes,
we explore this together.
absolutely. And a really great place to start is with your partner or your spouse, because if you aren't on the same page, as we know, this is an area of big contention in relationships based on people's background.
Mm. I wanted to add one more thing that you both were talking about, and certainly answered Steve's question about how with the next generation. I want to add one thing, which is what you mentioned before, Lisa, is that prosperous universe. Learn them and teach them how to not oppose it, but really teach them, say, hey, learning to be, to feel and connect with it. Now it's not against you. It is there for you, but you need to evoke it. I don't know if that's the right word, that it's going to support it by affirmations or in those questions. I think that's really important for next generations.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And as much as they can get in and have their own experience with money, whether it's a part-time job. One of my sons has a little business where he puts American flags up in people's yards during big holidays. So it's had to teach him responsibility to handle his clients. Yeah, it's
Love
good.
it. Lisa, I could listen to you speak for many hours. This is such a fascinating topic, and I think we've only just barely started to touch the surface of things. Um, how can people connect with you? How can people learn more about this wonderful work that you're doing?
Oh, thank you so much. I am Lisa Kalmin on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. So you can direct message me on any of those platforms. And I have a website, lisakalmin.com, where you can go, and I've got a couple videos there. And then I think we're going to put in the show notes the little money mindset quiz if we can. That'd be great. And my book is on Amazon. It's The Problem Is How You See the Problem. It's really short. Like, it took me 4 years to write, not because it was long, but because my head was so in the way, and as most people's is about putting their work out. And yeah, it's like a little handbook of self, personal development, transformation, etc. So it's like 120 pages. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Lisa, for this exciting chat that we had. I think it can help a lot of people, even the short time that we had to talk about it. I think a lot of ideas that people can start using and implementing. So thank you for that. And everybody else, thank you for listening in. And until next time, we see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.